moving. We're on Daf Ayin Amud Beis. Ayin Amud Beis. You're on the right page. 3 lines down. Actually, tonight's pretty easy Gemara, and we have a very, very famous. No, Bavli doesn't work, but Yerushalmi usually it's true. Tomorrow's Bavli is not easy. It's not hard, it's not easy. Cause have a little chokek. It says, now this story actually about Gittin, not about Shabbos. It says by get you have to write it and not engrave it. Because of law meitiv, you have to write it and not to drip ink down. Okay? Now dripping ink, you form blobs of ink on the paper, and it's like connect the dots. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Drip, 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 drip. Because of the law of shofech. This is interesting. I never realized this before. Spilling ink. That would be a good question whether you could use like a well, not just a stencil, but it's like you could use if you could squeeze a tube of ink out on a paper, right? You can't do that. There has to be writing. There has to be a point hitting the paper in order for it to work. Okay? If you have like that would be a problem. Let's say if you have like a felt tip pen. Right, a felt tip pen is really not a point hitting the paper, right? It's really the paint flowing through. So that would be precluded probably by shofech. Okay, because of lochokik, it says you're supposed to write the get and not engrave it. Each tani, there are those who say, afilu chokik, you could even engrave it. Rav Chitzuk said, Mandamar lochokik, he who said you're not allowed to engrave it, is bebolet mokom aksav, is where the place of the writing sticks up, kigon hadein dinar, like a coin. In other words, you cannot. What you may not do is you may not. You can engrave the. You can. Engrave the writing into the paper. That means to make an indentation. That's okay, but you cannot indent the paper around where you're writing, like you do with a coin, right? You put it in a mold and you press down, and then the middle rises where the mold is not applied. That's not legitimate for anything, because that's called chok urechos. You depress the area around as opposed to the area itself, which is the writing. If you depress the area which is the writing, that would be okay, perhaps. That's what we're saying here. If you depress the area around the writing, that's not okay. That doesn't work. Okay.
We're still just talking about Gittin, not talking about Shabbos.
Still getting right on Shabbos, Shechab, and everything. The Kosav, Rabbi Yehuda, Manar Afilu Choki, who said you were allowed to engrave again, because it's like you engrave on a wax board where you impress into the wax. Because of Lameiti, because of me and not dripping dots. Rabbi Shalom, Rabbi Misani, Chadamar once said B'shloi Rabbi Kuz, it's only if you don't make the dots touch. In other words, you gotta connect the dots in order for it to work. Even if you connected the dots, it's no good. Because of low shofech. It says you write and not to spill. Rabbi Chia Bar Bar said, Ilim b'nei Medincha, those of the east, Al-Rumim Sagin are very smart. One of them wants to send a secret writing to his friend who cuts up a milin. He writes it with a certain type of fruit juice, and it fades, it becomes a blank piece of paper. And he receives the document. He spills an ink which has no apats in it. Apats is some sort of it's some sort of chemical. I don't know exactly what it does. Some sort of chemical. As long as that chemical, I guess that chemical makes the ink take even where there was originally writing, and that would be no good, right? Because he wants to where there was originally writing not to take ink, and that's what the invisible fruit juice does, right? So it prevents the ink from taking there. So as long as it's not a potzim, the ink will not take. Vukolit Makam Aksav. And it absorbs the place where things are written. Or maybe it's the opposite, it does work there.
Unless someone who is as trustworthy as the Chananya Petragic is appointed over the book.
No, yeah, it's the opposite what I said. In other words, when he spills the ink, it'll take on a place where it originally was writing, won't take in the other places. Okay, also came B'Shabbos Mao. What happens if you if you did this on Shabbos? Now, this is not talking about. Yeah, it's talking about this thing that you take this invisible ink and then you make a reveal on Shabbos. What's the halacha? Rabbi Yochanan Shimon Lakish Tarvayo or made Busha Kasav Dior Gabi Dio. It says that if you write Dior Gabi Dio, ink on top of ink, Sikra Gabi Sikra, another type of ink on top of another type of ink. Ink of Dior Gabi Sikra, but if you wrote with ink on top of Sikra, I'm sorry. If you wrote ink on top of ink or ink on top of Sikra, you're potter. Ink of Dior Gabi Sikra, you wrote with different types of ink, one on top of the other, Sikra Gabi Dio Chayev. You're Chayev. Right? So we see that changing the nature of the object is considered to be mechayev you. So here too, if you change the nature of the object, which you put on this ink, which will reveal the fruit juice, so you'll be chayev for doing so. Okay, that's considered to be changing the nature of writing. You're chayev for changing the nature of writing, not just for the initial recording of the facts. The Talmud said. Yitzhak ben Bishar should say the name of the rabbis in Bavel. Chayiv Shtaim. You chayiv two chatos. Echad mishum moche, mishum kosev. When you pour on top of a pre-existing ink, other ink, or when you write on top of it, you chayiv two. One because you erase what was written on beneath, and now the second is so you transgresses that you writing on top of it. Right, we had that probably. Well, it's Rabbanan in the Talmud.
That's right.
Okay, the rabbis in Bavel. Somebody wrote in fruit juice without the secret code. We made payros with mashka's beverage. I need my beverage. We made payros or in fruit juice. Ba'avak drochim in the dirt of the highway. Ba'avak soifim in the dirt which like scribes scatter on their paper to blot it. Anything else which doesn't last, potters. Your example, if you wrote lachayad in not a normal fashion, beraglo with your foot, bepiv with your mouth, bemarpeko with your elbow, because of os achad, then all of these are your potter. Because of achas os achas samagsav, if you wrote a letter next to letters which are already written. Because of organic side, you wrote a tavasai which is already written. This kavin lichtov ches, you intended to write a ches, because of Beis Zayin wrote two Zayin. Echa bartel kaira, you wrote one letter down on the ground and one on a high beam. V'al kshay kosei abayis on two walls. Or I'll state Pinchas 2 pages in a journal or a pamphlet. Said these two letters could not possibly read right here with the other. Right? They're so separate. Or Kosev Os Echad Nitrikon. Or you wrote one letter Nutrikon. In other words, you wrote an aleph, let's say, with the mark next to it over there, which indicates that that aleph really stands for what? The number 1, which is spelled. How's it spelled in Hebrew? Chod. Right, it's not a trick question. So I might say that in that case, if you wrote aleph, which everybody understands, connotes a chod, which is 3 letters, so you're certainly chayev, right? So that's what Tanakama says. It's also part of what you're potter on. I hear him saying chayev. I hear says you're chayev. But you say you're potter on this as well. Okay, somebody intended to write the Shem Hashem. Somebody had to write the Shem Hashem. Sorry, but instead he had the wrong intent. Lichtov Yehuda, and he intended to write Yehuda, but he's a double klutz. A, did the wrong intent. B, v'shochach v'lo kosav dalet. In the end, he forgot the dalet anyway. So now it looks like Yud Kei Vav Kei, but it's not. What did he have in mind? To write not Yud Kei Vav Kei, but rather what? Yudah, right? So what's halacha? Harei Hashem in Komahu. This name is in its valid place, right? Mochko, you can erase it because it was not written with the proper kavanah. Umekaimo, right? Umekaimo v'bekdusha, and then you rewrite it, and then it's holy.
But it's already Shem Hashem, whether you wrote it kavanah or not. It's still Shem Hashem.
Doesn't matter. So Shem Hashem is not kavanah. You chiddush, but that's the chiddush was said.
It's very high, very lofty.
That's why you can throw away papers. From this one, you can throw away papers that have Torah content in them, but they're made to throw away.
I thought you put them in shambles anyway.
No.
Like the mimeograph sheets that you have from the
No, you can toss them out. I mean, they're covered. You put it in a plastic bag.
wrap it up.
Right, because they're not made Liskayim. So even the Shem Hashem you say here. Yeah, well, many years ago. Lamaisa, right. Lamaisa, however, we're machmir on the Shemos of Hashem, but only if it's written with the Kavanah Shem Hashem. So the Kavanah of Yehuda doesn't even have any Kedusha whatsoever. Okay? So says Gemara, you place a pen over it and just to make it nicer, and that's to rectifying it and sustain. Amar Lo Sarabbanan said we don't like that. It's not a proper way to do it. It's not a good way to do it. Now, says Amar B'chalfa Shita said it should be the Rabbanan. So contradiction in Rabbanan. Tamanu Omer or Heim Omrim, they say Eno Ksav, that by getting Ksav al Gabi Ksav is not a Val Ksav. Yet here we say that V'achat Omer Ksav, writing on top of other writing, is valid writing. So it says Yerushalmi Hu B'shitaso Heshivu. The truth is Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold that way. They were only responding to Rabbi Yehuda's Shita and trying to take it to an absurd. And they said B'shitascha. According to your own reasoning, Sha'at Omer, that you say Ksavu, that you say that writing on top of other writing is writing, even though we don't agree with you that, at least Kutsitas Avoid Edamina Muvchor, it's not the right way to do it, right? It's not a proper mitzvah, it's a b'di'evet, it's not a chavchila mitzvah. See that? Rabbi Yaakov Razav Shem Ra'evo said, Lo Amar Kain. The truth is that that's not the question. Ella, rather the question like this. Mechav Shita say again, it should be either the Rabbanan or the Tanakama. Tamno Omer Eina Mina Muvchor. Over there he says it's not Mina Muvchor Ksav Ksavu, but it's a valid writing.
Yeah.
What are you talking about again? The mezuzah, right? It's a valid writing, but it's just not Mina Muvchor. Ksav Ksavu. V'achat Omer here say Ksav Gabi Ksav Einu Ksav. By Shabbos you say it's not a valid Ksav altogether. So says the Gemara, Ma'u Ksav Gabi Ksav. Where is a Ksav Gabi Ksav accepted, even according to the Gemara? Chad Le'el. Not what is it? Where's Mechai Bilchatos? Right? Normally we say.
So if it's two different colors of ink.
Yeah, 1 second.
So again, a person gets Olam Haba because he gives honor.
It's a question for Rabbanan, sorry, because again we changed the gears here. And again, and Mechavish Shas Rabbanan, Tamanoy Mer Einamina Muvchor.
If he gets kavod,
There he said it's not fantastic. Kosav Ksavu, but it's a valid Ksav. V'achu Omer Ksav Gabi Ksav Eino Ksav. Here says Ksav Gabi Ksav is not a valid Ksav. Where's not a valid Ksav?
But not because of the honor or
Shekneged the Kain of kavod.
The Shabbos are beginning.
Okay. Kihad Yosef Reid Rav Yoshua Cholish.
Sounds like over here.
Cholish Ingid. Cholish Ingid.
Yes, the Polish we can read, and Ingid means
Okay, it's the same question we had before. It's just repeated. Again, Rabbi Yaakov Barzav, the second line. Rabbi Yaakov Barzav, the Shem Avo said, "Lo Markain is not the right way to ask the question, but it's the same question really." And it's a contradiction of Rabbanan Shita. What's contradiction of Rabbanan Shita? Time over there, Rabbanan say the shame is not proper, right? It's not gewaldig, but it sounds like it's not really puzzle, right? Haksav ksavu, but it's about writing. You're saying that to write one on top of the other by Shabbos, you're potter. So how come you're saying over there it's just not mina muvchor? It sounds like with the evidence you're yaitzi, and you're saying that the exact opposite, right? Right, you're saying that
Well, it's two different things, though.
that you're potter from Shabbos.
One about being chayav v'chatas for an aveira, and the other one is being chayav mitzvah of writing mezuzah or even writing a get.
Because of their wealth.
So what's the difference though? It's good for one mitzvah, it should be bad for an aveira. It's good for a mitzvah, it should be bad for an aveira. It's bad for an aveira, it's good for a mitzvah. Two things should go together. But if ksav agav ksav is a val ksav, right?
Yeah.
It's a val ksav. So then,
It's got to be in this country. Which is, well, not including kings, right?
One second.
The Sultan of Brunei is.
The ksav agav ksav is a val ksav.
Including kings and.
Work it. Just saying, you should be chayav.
No, for Shabbos, not for Gittin.
The only time we say ksav agav ksav is valid for Shabbos is if it's different colors ink.
That's true, I'm being wrong. Hachor me ksav agav ksav eno ksav. Right, it's not about writing. Well, it's not about writing.
So then the question comes back, why is it valid for a get?
Yeah, why is it only not mitzvah min muvchor? Why it's only not mitzvah muvchor, it should be apostle.
Right.
Right? So ma'al ksav agav ksav. So it says the Gemara, what's the ksav agav ksav, which our Mishnah is postulating? That chad el min chad, where you have one letter on top of another letter. Okay? In other words, you wrote your two letters, but you wrote them one on top of the other. That's ksav agav ksav. And that's the one which we pater by Hilchos Shabbos. Why pater by Hilchos Shabbos?
Because it looks like one letter.
The shiur is two letters, so you don't have it. Right. So, or there's another interpretation here. He says over here, the Korban Ha'eda, another pshat, he says that ksav agav ksav means that you wrote.
I don't know where you should have run. Who wouldn't take it?
You wrote one letter in the space of another letter. You wrote one letter in the space of another letter. That's not considered to be chayav on Shabbos. Meaning, I guess you have a large hay and you wrote a little yud in front inside of it. That doesn't count.
Like
Okay.
the New York Yankees logo. You have the NY.
Right, like the New York Yankees logo.
The half.
So ma'al ksav agav ma'al ksav agav ksav chad le'el michad. The one on top of each other, one within another. My time with Rabbi Yosef Mesera. That by Shabbos is no good. By Shabbos it's okay, but by you're not chayav chatos. But
It is a kosher.
it is a kosher get. Yeah. Says my time Yosef Yudah ben Beseira.
There is such a thing as not supposed to give everybody a screw to give them a screw.
Yeah, what's the larger Yudah ben Beseira? That says you have one letter nutricone. Because from one word you can learn, from one abbreviation, one letter you can learn many letters. Okay. So therefore it's chayiv even nutricone. I mean, it really means the echad with an aleph. So you can learn many things from that. Somebody writes two letters. B'shtei lemos.
But you're not Yotze if you wrote a hey with a abbreviation for a shah.
You're not Yotze vis-a-vis halachas of Sefer Torah. Again, we're saying there's a difference between Sefer Torah and Shabbos, right? Somebody writes two letters. B'shnei lemos in two periods of forgetfulness. Echad b'shachris, one in the morning. B'echad b'arvis, one in the afternoon. Ben Arbaim. Ran Gamliel, Mechayim Gamliel says you're chayiv. They join together. Chachamim pocher chachamim exempt you. Now Lieberman says about the next Gemara, the Gerus is completely messed up and he doesn't know how to sort through it. There's several possibilities, but none of them are glot, and the truth is he's right.
Gotta get to work. Figure this out.
The kasha, I didn't even bother, but I'll give it to you the way it can work. The kasha Amar Gamliel. I have to excuse me. I'm itching all over. Yesterday we went went down south to Naperville, and there's a nice place there for kids, the Naper Settlement. On the way back, we stopped at the Morton Arboretum, and we made the mistake of taking a walk. No, mosquitoes. Mosquitoes, yes. Right. Dozens of mosquito bites all over. Okay, so I'm itching many places right now. Sorry. Sorry writes two letters. Vishnei Lamos, the two Lamos, Evel Shachos, Evel Beit Abayim, Gamliel Mechayev, and Kohen Pochim. V'kasha on Gamliel, Livchor on Gamliel. Ilu Kotza Kogeres B'Shachos. If you harvested a Kogeres in the morning, and a Kogeres Ben Abayim, and a Kogeres in the afternoon, Behelei Mechad, and it's one Helem, Shema no chayav? Are you not chayav? Obviously you're chayav, right? Now, what are you chayav though? Only one carbon, right? One carbon. So if that's the case, kashem shein elemos chalukos, just like the elemos don't join together, right? Don't separate them. Sorry, therefore you're not chayav two separate karbanos, right? You're not chayav two separate karbanos, one carbon. Kach lo yitztarfu. So too, if you did a half in the morning and half in the afternoon, they shouldn't join together. Now that makes no sense, as Lieberman pointed out, right? So you have to go back and change something. Something's got to be changed. You have to say, for instance, that what you can do is you have to say, aren't you exempt? Meaning that since it's Heli Mechad, you're potter, you're exempt. You only have to bring one chatas, not two, right? So then we say, Kishem she'en alemos chalukos, just like alemos don't separate from each other, right? They're not separate. They're all one continuous helem. Well, we have to change this line as well. We have to say, no, ein alemos would be an answer. Ein alemos chalukos. Halemos are not cholek, right? But they are mitzdarif. Or you would say bitmiok. What do you think? Halemos chalukos chachlo yitzarfu? Just because they don't separate, so too they're not mitzarif each other. Of course they're mitzarif each other, and therefore they join together. And that's why if you did a chati, because I said chatish in the morning, chatish in the afternoon, they're joined together.
Or else drop the low, and it's not a question.
Right. But something has to be done. You get the idea, right? Something is messed up here, and something's got to be done. And what it is really not germane. Ramona says this without a Jewish Rabbi Yochanan says, this is we know from the Bavli all over. The reason Gamliel is over here by us is Tamon meaning us is because there's no idea for Chati Shir, right? Any deal Chati Shir. If you become aware that you transgressed after half a shear and you didn't know yet You didn't, you could, when then you did another half a shear, so the idea is not mechalik. The idea is only mechalik on a full malacha, not on a chatzi shear. So that's what Gamliel holds here. Gamliel says, Time Gamliel Tamon ain't the chatzi shear, the kavos, and so too ain't zodon l'chatzi zayis. There's no maze and a half of zayis. Therefore, we can ask, oh chatzi zayis bezodon. If you add a half a kazayis intentionally, the chatzi zayis b'shkoka, another half a zayis in shoygeg, ma'u she'et starfu, do they join together if there's no zodon l'chatzi zayis, right? So that should mean if there's no zodon l'chatzi zayis, it's not going to be amazing on a half a zayis, then you should join together another half a zayis done b'shogeg, and you be able to bring a chatos. Of course, the Gemara doesn't give an answer as to whether this is possible or not. Okay, hachulach haboyne, new parak. Rabbi Lezer Omer, ha'orig beis chutim mitchila, somebody who knits 2 layers of a weave together, mitchila to begin with, v'echad ha'orig, and then, or somebody who adds on one to a pre-existing garment, chayav, he's chayav. Whether you're beginning with, whether you're ending, shiur shnei chutim, the shear is 2 threads, not 3 threads. Okay? Time Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer said the reason Rabbi Lezer is aydei shlishi malach miskayem. With the third one, the malacha lasts. Okay, really lasts. As Amar Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yehuda, is Rabbi Lezer what? Does Rabbi Lezer look Rabbi Yehuda? It's neither one we learned over there by Kilayim Yehuda Mer Achi Shali Shali Chaim and Kilayim when you do it 3 times. Now 3 times there's talking about something else though. What's the talking about over there? 3. Say about Shatnez. 3 what? Also starts with an S.
Strands.
He's asking his company to want to
Stitches. But stitches are what? That's sewing. Here, what are we talking about over here?
These are the Jews.
Now I'll show you. What are we talking about? Weaving. It's critical distinction. Says by sewing, achi shalish means 1, 2, 3 stitches. Okay? Has to be 3 stitches. Vasakva kuba mitzvah kilayim is not relevant. Thus, that a sack and knapsack joined together by kilayim, it's really not relevant. So, but in any event, so we see it seems to be the same thing. What Rabbi Yehuda said over there is Rabbi Lezer over here. Rabbi Yehuda said, time Rabbi Lezer tamon. The large Rabbi Lezer over there by sewing. In order for something to really last a long time, it needs 3 stitches. But even 2 stitches do something. So Chacham would argue over there and say, okay, but 2 stitches do something, so it's not to be chayav on, so we're going to be chayav you on the 2 stitches, right? But here, pachos mikan, if it's less than 3, mistater, it's going to break. What does it mean? It's going to break. What? That's what I would say unravel, right? But Lieberman says no. Truth is not any more susceptible to unraveling than the case of the goats here previously, right? So what's the problem here? Melechus machsheves. Melechus machsheves requires a true bond. Okay? By Kilayim, he could agree that 2 is enough. Because 2 is a shvacha bond. A weak bond, but it's enough of a bond. But, and it's only Rabbi Lezer who requires 3 strings. 3 stitches. I know. I'm giving you the way Lieberman learns it. Name of Melech Shlema. But here, what? Doesn't make sense anyway. The Gemara has written makes no sense. Because saying, over there you need 3 and one of that because 3 less. But here, you can't have less than 3 because less than 3 is going to break. Does that make sense to you?
Therefore, that's why it makes more sense to say it's a bit deal.
What?
Therefore, it makes more sense to say more than this is a bit deal.
But how do you reconcile then? Is Rabbi Lezer talking only going to Rabbi Yehuda or not? Okay, so that's what I'm telling you. What Lever and example Melecha Sherman and Kilayim. That means like this. Tama, really, 3. You need to, according to Rabbi Lezer over here, you might not need 3 by Kilayim, because by Kilayim it just has to last a little bit. And how much lasts a little bit? Even 2, right? True, by Adei Shlishi Melachta Mitzkayemes, but that's too long. That's Mitzkayemes forever. We don't care about that, right? However, here, if it's less than 3, since here we're talking about specifically, a weep. Took me a while to come up with that. Here it's specifically a weave, so therefore here we need a 3 in order to create a true bond. Why is that? Because Melechus Machshavas Osator. Melechus Machshavas Osator means the Torah asert full, complete activities.
Different definition.
That's true. Let me see if I can repeat that one more time.
Permanence attached to 3. No, to the concept of love. Sure it is. No. If you really are intent to make a permanent knot, that's it.
Yeah, that has to be the case, because by Boina, we say that all the time.
You want it to last.
Boina has to be, we had that last parak, yeah, Boina has to be L'Doris, not Doris, permanent, Kvias. Kaisev has to be Kvias, everything has to be Kvias. The way Lieberman makes a distinction is that I think the way he says the difference between Miskayim, I forget the language he used.
I'll make the analogy of a surgeon that's tying a suture. So you could do 2 times or 3 times. If you really want to make sure that it's not going to open up, you do 3 times. You make a 3rd knot. That's a kesho canvas.
Kayoma. But the thing is like this, again, the difference between here and Kilayim, according to the way Lieberman is that be Kilayim, you need to have all even though there Rabbi Yehuda does say you need 3, right? Yehuda says you need 3. So Rabbi Lezer doesn't have to agree with that, because there he says it has to be just Kayim. 2 is enough to make Kayim. But here it's got to be Shelo Yisaser, that it should never break. And what does it mean should never break? Dafka 3. That's how he learns the Surya. Obviously, the other way is to learn the Surya, right? Yeah. Return this trend. Okay.
We still have to hear what the Modoi
Says more further. We're on our base now. Ashkechis Omar bin Lezer, Ba'amim Shlosha b'tchil. Thank you. Ashkechis Omar bin Lezer. We finally say to Rabbi Lezer. Ba'amim Shlosha b'tchila. Sometimes you need 3. That's when Ba'amim Shlosha b'tchila. When you're beginning to make the garment, the initial from scratch, need to make 3 in order to be higher for weaving. Ba'amim Shnayim. Sometimes all you have to do is put 2 layers. Agabi echarorik. If you have one already woven. Miasmo from yesterday, from before Shabbos began. Now the next line is obviously a mistake because it just repeats itself. So the way to learn it is Ba'amim echad. Sometimes only 1. Agabi shnayim arugim miasmo. You're putting it on top of 2 which are already woven from yesterday. So that's this approach in Rabbi Eliezer is that it's variable. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 1. It has to be a finishing touch. Rabbana Keisarim Rabbana Keisarim asked, Mao, what is the halacha? Is it echad al arik? Is it taka like that? That one on a fully woven echad al gabi shnayim. I'm sorry, echad means 1 or more which is not woven. Echad al gabi shnayim, 1 on that which is woven twice, and echad al gabi shalosh, and 1 on 1 which is woven 3 times. In other words, perhaps it's always 1. Why would it always be one? Depends, obviously. What would always be one? What would you say?
Okay.
Combines with two others.
Then it would
One by
leave it
itself?
a Tana.
What?
One
Makabeh Patish. Makabeh Patish. But the thing is that doesn't work. Moshe points it out. Because that it's saying here even one on top of one. So therefore the Moshe says a kloimar. He says it's not written straight. What the Rabbanan Gitzar wanted. What they really want to say is the opposite. They want to say maybe it's always three. 3 on top of 1, 3 on top of 2, 3 on top of 3. In other words, maybe the 3 is never variable. Okay? Not that 1 is never variable, because 1 on top of 1 is not Magam Patish, you didn't make anything. Right? So it means 3. Maybe 3 is sometimes 1, C is sometimes 2, 3 is sometimes 3. 3 on top of 1, 3 on top of 2, 3 on top of 3. The bottom line is you got to weave 3 no matter how many are pre-existing there. Okay? That's what Rabbanan Gitzar mean to ask. Rabbanan that over here said the way we said before, that varies, depends on how many are already knit there. But you need 1 on top of 2, 2 on top of 1, or 3 on top of 0. Okay. If somebody had a large talus, at the beginning of the shiur is 2 strings, according to Rabbanan arguing Rabbi Lezer. But so at the end, I feel kosher, even a mashu is sufficient. Is a
so tzedakah and chesed both exalt the nation. That's why
the what you call it,
to the other nation. It's the same. Kindness belongs.
the carbonator and no, everybody says because the makabeh patish. Right at the end, even one is not because of makabeh patish. If you finish off the garment, then finish off the garment makes you chayav. Okay, is that clear?
But that's a different. That's not a Torah of.
Therefore, if they
No, it's makabeh patish, completely different.
Together.
Right.
So really.
Just coincidental over here.
Charity and kindness are closely related. Charity.
Harek shnei chutim. Now here it's a little bit. Gears is messed up. Harek shnei chutim. Somebody weaves 2 strings. Al gabe, it should be on top of hagas, and hagas is I forgot. What? No, it's with the tough at the end. Right?
Many weaves. It says because the carbonator says.
Yeah, many weaves. Right. So agave, that's was already woven, and you wove 1 on top, 2 on top. Okay, of course, not makabeh patish. That's you need 2. Or agave imra. At the beginning of the garment, literally when you're making the hem, you also wove 2 layers. Then you're chayav. The carbonator takes out the rest of the line. What's this analogous to? Letziltzul kata. Shargvo shnei chutim. It's like a small belt, right? In which you wove 2 strings. Aroch of shtei batim. What? Aroch of shlosha batim. And to the extent of 3 batim near, which obviously knew the shiur, how much was the change base near? Chayav. Then you're chayav.
Correct. More than you.
What?
I don't get the analogy.
What's the problem? Means you don't need to have makabeh patish. You're chayav because of 2. No, even not makabeh patish. It's really very posh. I mean, Baal Batish. No offense. But, what you're saying is that, in sometimes 2 is mechayev you, even when it's not makabeh patish, you need 2 to be mechayev you, 2 is sufficient. I see what you're asking. You're asking it's not a chiddush. You're right, it's not a chiddush. Chiddush is the other way. The chiddush is makabeh patish does make me chayav in one week. Here it's partial that it doesn't work. It's not going to chayav you because of makabeh patish because it's in the middle of the garment. So therefore it's definitely going to be 2. Again, the contrast between makapatish is even one. In this case, where it requires two, I think. Okay. Lamad over doim. Let's also cut like a small belt. Sharbo shnei chutim al shalosh bati. Chayv do two lengths of weave on across 3 batei near. V'nefesh mesech is also when it's spread. Nefesh is referring to the loom. When it's spread, commando b'tchiyus as if you're beginning from the beginning. V'hain, it should be levuda. The Korbaneda says, or levada. And levada means a felt garment, and a felt garment, has it's not woven, right? It's not woven, right? But nonetheless, let's say you weave the perimeter, right? I feel with self ariku, and even at the end of when you're weaving, even at the end when you're making it, it's still considered makapatish, because makapatish is the finishing labor on something which is pre-existing. But here nothing was pre-existing. Why? Because you made the rest of it from felt, and now you're trying to squeeze in, so to speak, a woven part that's not considered makapatish and something so radically different than what was already there. Again, v'ain levada feel besof kariku. Even if it's at the end, it's still like the beginning. And also v'ain l'suta, a necklace which can constantly expand. It's not a metal necklace, right? It's one made out of garment. So if you besof, even at the end, because kariku, it's still like the arik. You need to have 3 because it's constantly expanding the necklace and so on and so forth. Shem Hashem ad shoshi yashli. You only chayav when you complete writing the name. Kosev os achas lashim es Hashem. What happens? You wrote one letter and it completes the Shem Hashem. You write not the vav and hey, but just the vav hey. So it's makapatish, right? Kosev os or os achas lashim es a sefer, or one letter to complete a sefer. You're chayav on Shabbos. Why? Because you gave him much significance. Because it completed the work. So it's makapatish. Might not be kosev, but it's makapatish it is. Lama says more. Why is that? Imishum kiyum malacha. Why do you have to have that? That's good. I'm sorry. Kosav achas b'chol. You wrote one letter on a weekday. Both hours Shabbos. One letter on Shabbos. Rabbi Lezer mechayev chatos. Rabbi Lezer says mechayev chatos. Rabbi Shua exempts you. Lama. Why are you?
Oh, he goes by Harry Morales.
Why Patrick according to Rabbi Yeshua?
He doesn't have his own email.
Yeah, I think why you chayav, right? Why chayav? Well, what's the issue? Let's do it like this. Let's be politically correct here. What's the issue we're talking about? Imishum ki malacha. We're talking about that the malacha should be viable, meaning there should be a significant malacha, or is it mishum shein roy litztar fimo, or because it's not suitable to join together? Significant malacha means 2 letters. Ein roy litztar fimo means that one is old and one is new, and the Ritbaz says they don't look good together. Old ink and new ink. That new ink is geschmack, fresh, but old ink doesn't join together, right? And you wrote it yesterday. By the time Shabbos gets around, it's already old hat. I mean old ink. Okay? Says more further. Let's see. If you wove one strand on a weekday, another strand on Shabbos, Shema einenu patur. Are you not patur in that case? And Shema einu roy litztar vimo. In that case, where you can't join together. There's no difference between a thread which is woven 12 hours ago and a thread which is woven now. By the ink, maybe there's a difference, but not by thread, right? Ela mishum ki malacha. So why you exempt? Because the malacha is not permanent. What does it mean malacha is not permanent? It wasn't done in a significant shiur on Shabbos. So it must also be the true by the machlokas before, which we learned that the shiur question is whether it's considered to be a significant shiur. Like that which Rabbi Yaakov Bracha said, Rabbi Yassim said, Mishem Lezer. If you wrote one letter in Tveria, Vachas Tzipori, another letter in Tveria, Chayev. Then you're Chayev, right? Now, that must be because even though they're not royally tzaref, you have a chiyuv because it's kiyum malacha. And if you don't say that, the low kain, if you don't say that, then you would have to say that's going to Rabbi Eliezer, that's going to Rabbi Eliezer that you hold according to Rabbi Eliezer. What do we say? That one on a weekday, one on Shabbos is chayav chatos, right? So you have two options. Either say that one second. Yeah, again. Elishum Kim Malacha Kaidam Rabbi Yaakov Barach, like that which Rabbi Yaakov Barach said, and Rabbi Yasser said B'Shem Rabbi Eliezer. Kasav Osechot B'Tferi Vosechot B'Tzipori. If you wrote one letter in Tferi, one letter Tzipori Chayev, right? Even though they're distant from each other, the lokain. If you don't say that the issue is Kim Malachos, so then it would have to be like Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says in that case, you're Chayev Chatos. Why? Because Rabbi Eliezer holds that it is Makeh, I think Makeh Patish.
Just mitzvah.
What?
Maybe just mitzvah.
No, Rabbi Eliezer said if you wrote one on a weekday and one on Shabbos, that can't be Makeh Mitzvah, that has to be Makeh Patish. Right? No? Isn't that the case? If you wrote one on weekday, one Shabbos, right? I think it has to be Chai because of Makeh Patish. What else would you be chayav because of? To me, mitzvah, I don't think it's mitzvah.
But the reason why it's pressure is because it's all Lincoln Newey. It's Makeh Patish even if it's old Lincoln Newey together. So it has to be because it's not mitzvah.
You ask because of mitzvah. Has to be that something which is even though you're potter on it, it's chazi leads to. You know what it's like? You're right. It's like a cotton who became an adult during Sfira Somer. The first days of Sfira, first 15 days, let's say, was Bar Mitzvah 15th day of Sfira. Is his Sfira count? No. Can he count the 16th day when he comes Bar Mitzvah? Why?
The continuation.
But he wasn't chayiv then. So what do you have to say? That even though it wasn't the post would say it's mitzdarif hold, even though it wasn't shas chiyuv, but he counted. So to here would be a similar thing. Even though it wasn't shas chiyuv, but he wove, and now he's adding on to that weave. So he's really chayiv. He's really chayiv for having done not 3 strands, but having done the 3rd weave in the series. I don't know if that's like Sfira Somer. That's cute. In other words, you're not chayiv for having. You see what it's saying? According to Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi.
But it's not. You're saying it's not
for a second weave. Right. He was right. It has to be mitzvah. Okay, fine. So I take that back. So let's see that again. So it says, if one wove one string on a weekday and one string on Shabbos, Shemeino potter, or are you not potter? Well, why are you potter? Shemeino royally tzarfim. Why shouldn't they join together? Ela mishum kiyum malacha. It's must because of kiyum malacha. That it's not a choshev malacha. But ki hi da'amar Rabbi Yaakov Baracha Rabbi Yasser b'shem Rabbi Eliezer, like Rabbi Yaakov Baracha said. Rabbi Yasser's name Rabbi Eliezer. Kasav Osechot B'Tveria v'echas Tziporin Chayav. So you wrote one letter in Tveria, another letter in Tzipori. You're Chayav. So it must be because it's a malacha chashuva. The lokain, because we don't say it's because of malacha chashuva, then ends up being like Rabbi Eliezer, who says that you're mitzvah 2 things, even though the first thing really can have nothing to do with the second thing. How can the first thing not have anything to do with the second thing? Because one letter is in Tveria and one letter is in Tzipori. Okay? So therefore, it must be that we hold that the issue is Kiyum Malachos and Rabbanon and
You gotta get positions though by July 5th.
it's still not working. It's still not working. It says like Rabbi Elazar because he says Chayev. And Rabbi Elazar is the one who says Chayev.
We need like lots of positions.
Let's try one more time. I think we'll get it this time. Let's try it again. Lama. Why? Is because what's the issue? The issue because of Kiyum Malacha, and the Shah is this is considered Kiyum Malacha. In other words, a significant malacha. Mishum Shem B'Rod Yitztarfim was the issue of Yitztarfim, the Shah whether you can be Mitzarf there before Shabbos. Yischamei, come and say, let's bring a proof from here. You wove one before Shabbos, one on Shabbos. Shema Eino Potter, I arch Potter. Shema Eino Yitztarfim of the camp because of Yitztarfim, because they can join together. Why? Of course they can join together. One is not old and one new, so obviously they can join. It must be that the reason why Rabbi Elazar and Rabbanan had the argument by the Osachas is not because of Yitztarfus, but rather because of Kiyum Malacha. Vada Yitztarf it is, but it's a question of Kiyum Malacha. Okay, he done Rabbi Yaakov Barachan. I'll prove to you that this is the case. Because that case of Yaakov Barachan, Rabbi Yasser B'Shem Rabbi Elazar, of course there's Kiyum Malacha, right? Why is it chayev there? It must be that Kiyum Malacha is not the subject of Machlokas Rabbi Elazar and Rabbanon. If Kiyum Malacha was the subject of Machlokas Rabbi Elazar and Rabbanon, then this too should be a Machlokas Rabbi Elazar and Rabbanon. Why should this be the Machlokas Rabbi Elazar and Rabbanon? Because just like over there we say that it's not significant because there's no Yitztarfus between the two. Not significant, right? Because one was written before Shabbos, one was written after Shabbos. So too, here we should have to say that it's not significant because one is in Tferi, one is in Sipori.
But we said that someone could bring them together. You could transport the letter from Sipori to...
Yeah, I just said it wrong. I said the exact opposite of the way I should say it. Sorry. It must be that the machlokus over there. I have to work it backwards, otherwise I'm not going to get it right. It must be that since we hold that you can be mitzaref teferi and tzipori, so it must be that kiyum malacha, that tziruf is not a problem. That tziruf is not a problem. You can join them together. Which is taka true. You can join together. One is not old and one is new. They're both written at the same time, just in different places. It must be the machlokas between. Okay, that works. Must be this has to be. It must be tziruf malach is not a problem because you can be tired to one teferi and one tzipori. So that's okay. So it's machlokas Rabbi Elazar and Rabbanan. Machlokas Rabbi Elazar and Rabbanan was about kiyum malacha. Machlokus was, is this considered to be a significant malacha or not? When one is written on a weekday, one is written on Shabbos. Okay, good. Now, this is the machlokus. If one was written on weekday and one was written on Shabbos, so is that considered kiyum malacha or not? So says the Gemara, and that must be the machlokus, whether that's considered to be a kiyum malacha or not, whether that's significant or not, because of course, by can't be machlokas about tziruf, because then it'd be machlokas, because one is old and one is new, because then you would have to say, if one wove a thread before Shabbos and another thread on Shabbos, so you're chayev. Because there's no problem of tziruf, right? No problem of tziruf there whatsoever. Why is no problem of tziruf? Because one is not older and one is newer. One doesn't dry quicker than the other. It's not relevant, the whole discussion of old and new, or tziruf or not tziruf, right? That's not relevant. So there we say, yet nonetheless we know there you potter. You're potter if you wove one before Shabbos and one on Shabbos. So what must we conclude from that? That the issue is not one of tziruf, but rather one, because they're for sure being mitzvah, but rather the issue of kiyum malachos, right? And I'll prove that for you from elsewhere too. I don't want. I have a statement that if one wrote one letter Tzvei and another letter Tzipor, you're chayav on Shabbos, right? Right? Now they're for sure they're mitzdaref, right? Because you can bring them close together, right? So what must be saying there what must we be saying there that it's issue of that the reason why you're chayiv is because of kiyum melachos, because the melacha is miskayemes, right? The melacha is miskayemes because you wrote both of them on Shabbos. And says the Gemara, the lo kain, taking it again from that line, the lo kain Rabbi Elazar, because if you don't say that, then that which Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha said, that you're writing one letter and throwing one letter tzipori is chayav, if you're going to say that kiyum malachos was the subject of the machlokes between Rabbi Elazar and Rabbanan, as we just said the issue was tziruf, right? Not.
Oh, what are you doing at once?
No, we said the issue was kiyum malachos, right? Just the issue is kiyum malachos, right? Whether it's malacha shuva, and that we said is proved from from the weaving that there it's for sure mitzdaref. The issue has to be rad, and the only issue would be kiyum malachos, and then we say that by Rabbi Yossi and Shem Rabbi Elazar has got to say. No, it's good. Good. There for sure it's kiyum malachos, right? It's for sure kiyum malachos and for sure tziruf, right? Because the first time both on Shabbos and on both are written on Shabbos, and they can be mitzdaref with each other, right? If you're going to say if you're going to say, however, that the machlokas Rabbi Elazar and Rabbanan was one which concerned not kiyum malachos but tziruf, not kiyum malachos but tziruf, so then it would come out. It's good. Then it would come out that Rabbi Yeshua holds there's no tziruf. Yeshua holds that you're not mitzaref two things, right? Yeshua holds you can't say tziruf. Why can't you say tziruf? Because he says you can't be mitzaref one which is written earlier in the day, and the other which is written later in the day. One which is written earlier before Shabbos, one which is written later. Tzipori and Tveria, one is going to be written earlier and one is going to be written later, right? If you're going to say that Rabbi Yeshua exempted you, I forgot about this factor. If you're going to say that the issue is tziruf malachos, and that Rabbi Elazar exempts you, Rabbi Yeshua exempts you because you can't mitzaref old and new, right? So then you have to say that Tzferi and Tzipori don't join together either, because Tzferi and Tzipori, one is going to be old and one is going to be new. Because you didn't write them at the same time, you wrote one earlier, and then you walked to Tzipori and then wrote the other one, right?
They were both written on Shabbos the same day.
So what? And if one was there on Erev Shabbos a few minutes earlier, and Shabbos began a few minutes later?
That's not the case that's one time.
Now I'm making okay, you're right. We're going to have to come back to this tomorrow. I have to... no, do it now. Well, again, let's try it one more time. Why is Rabbi Yeshua pater? Because kiyum malachos, because not chosh, because only did one Shabbos, or because one was written after the other, and even an hour afterwards. Even in an hour, that's still a problem. Yischame, let's see. Ilu arag chut echad b'chol, chut echad b'Shabbos, shemen no potter, you're potter. Shemen already mitzarfim. What is the problem of tziruf? Of course they're mitzarf. There's no question of any time difference. Elam mishum ki malacha. Why are you potter? Not because they're not mitzarf, but because they're not. It's not malacha chashuv on Shabbos, right? Ki hidom Rabbi Yaakov barachok Rabbi Yasser b'shem Rabbi Lozer. And this the riot from this is also from here. The Rabbi Yaakov barachok said name Rabbi Yasser ben Lozer. Even though one is written earlier and one is written later, right? So if you're going to say that the machlok is between Rabbi Yeshua and between Rabbi Eliezer was whether you're mitzaref, one written earlier, one written later, then this could be located on Rabbi Eliezer. That'd be going like Rabbi Eliezer, who says it's a tziruf between one written earlier, one written later. And we know Rabbi Yeshua doesn't hold the way. We don't want to say that. So it must be that everybody agrees that there is tziruf malachos. And you mitzaref one written before and one written after. The only reason we're not mitzaref them is because both were not done. Both were not done on Shabbos, right? So there's no kiyum malacha. But in this case, they're both done on Shabbos, even though one was done earlier and one was done later. They are mitzaref. They join together. Okay. Rough night, but at least we got that done.